is up, YouTube? It is your man right here, Justin Mel's Music and Vlogs, and it has been a long time since I've last spoken to you, because I've been really busy with a whole lot of stuff going on. But aside from that, welcome all back to another special segment where I usually do cover songs on Mondays. Of course, I'll talk more about that later on. But today's featured video, in case if you notice in the title down there, it is the time for a big game show to make its huge milestone, and it premieres, you guessed it, in a few days' time, so I hope you can all tune in. And the show I'm talking about is one of my absolute favorite game shows of all time that I've been watching ever since I was a young boy, and originally hosted by the one and only Bob Barker. And yes, the show I'm talking about is called The Price is Right, where the three famous words that you hear is "come on down," because it is the amazing part of it all. We got a whole lot of stuff to cover, including the history of the show, when it all began, and so much more. Plus, there's something real special I want to be talking to you about in this upcoming 50th season. So hopefully you can tune in for that. And don't forget to stick around at the end of this video for a couple of special channel shoutouts that you don't want to miss out. And I hope you can get a chance to go connect with them as well. But without further ado, let's get right on down to the show. And just a reminder, if you are new here, make sure you hit the subscribe button below. Make sure you thumbs it up if you enjoyed it, and turn on all notifications so you don't miss out on any new videos that I post. And without further ado, like I said before, let's get on to the program, and here we go. And we begin with the history of the show. When did it all begin? The Price is Right, one of the mostly anticipated high-stakes game shows of all time, debuted back on September the 4th, 1972, hosted by the one and only Bob Barker, as I mentioned off the top of the show. And during the first episode of the airing of the show, the announcer usually calls up the four contestants. They tell them to stand up, and then after those four, they say, "come on down," those three words that I've mentioned earlier. You want to make sure you do that. And then they go down to contestants row, and they go get greeted by the host. And then they go feature the prize up for bids on the show, and they gotta figure out what they believe is the price of each prize that's shown there. And whoever came closest to the actual price without going over comes on up on stage to play a pricing game where they can win another prize, which is amazing. And then once all that is done, of course they do it for three contestants, one by one, whoever comes on up. And then they go to the showcase round immediately afterwards in those early stages. And then each contestant is featured a showcase. Now the one with the top winner gets to view the first showcase. Of course, both of them to be exact. And after the showcase is shown, the first one, they have a choice of either taking his showcase and bidding on it, or passing it to their opponent and waiting for the second showcase, which is really neat. Of course, I'll talk about the showcase and what bonuses they get for if they come in within a different range away from the actual price. But let's get back to more of the history of the show. Now, ever since the debut of the show, there was over 100 millions and millions of dollars in cash and prizes given away, which is a huge milestone. And I gotta say, it is quite amazing to see all those prizes and cash given away, because it is quite successful. It really is. And I'm sure you know how this goes. Now, on to the next topic, which is the pricing games, which, of course, the contestants going up to play after they win their prize up for bids down from contestants row, which is now called the bidders row. And there's many prizes that to be given away, including a brand new car, which is usually featured in some of those pricing games, such as the very first one that was shown on the debut show back in 1972 called Any Number. And generally how this goes, there's 10 digits, and each contestant has to choose which one. And as they do, they either get the number that's featured in the prize, either a brand new car, a prize of a smaller prize, or the money in the piggy bank, and whichever row they fill up first is the prize that they win. Of course, the alternative way is to win at least a prize, most importantly, the car. So you can't go wrong with that. Another one of my favorite pricing games called the race game, and this is really fun because you get to run around and you gotta put those 4 price tags right on those hooks where the prices of the prizes belong, and then they gotta run back and pull the handle to see how many they got correct and which ones they need to change. And of course, it's a time game. They get 45 seconds on the clock to get all of those price tags in the proper slots. And of course, the game ends either if time runs out, and then they have to pull the handle to see if they won any prizes, or if they get all 4 correct, then the game also ends as well, and they win all 4 prizes, which is amazing. Now, there have been some record-breaking times in the race game. One of the most noticeably, if I remember correctly, was one done in 6 seconds, I believe. Yeah, it's 6 seconds, although I could be wrong, but I'm very sure the record is 6 seconds for the race game so far in the history of that. Can't go wrong with that. Now, another pricing game that I also like, which is also played for a new car, called Cover Up, and they're featured with the price of the car that's incorrect, all those numbers wrong, and then they gotta cover up those wrong numbers with the correct numbers, which is right above them. And they get several rounds to see if they can get it all correct. Now, there has been the one time that one contestant got all the numbers done correctly on the first try. Which happens not too long if you know how this goes. Now, of course, one thing to know in mind is to not panic, because all you need is to get at least one of those numbers right each round to continue playing, and if they, at the point that they don't get any of those numbers right, game ends. And that's how it goes. But it's quite exciting to see how it all goes. One of my favorite features that they did in the cover-up game, at least in the Drew Carey era, which, in case if you're wondering, Drew Carey's the current host of the show, started way back in 2007, and it is quite exciting to see how all this goes. So they replaced the part where they show the incorrect numbers, they replaced it with special graphics, I guess to fit in with what theme it is. Probably one of the most noticeable, and probably one of the latest I've seen back in season 49 of the show. Of course, around that season when they didn't have a live audience in that season. Of course, they had the logos from the different decades. There's one from season 10, they're in there, season 20, season 30, and so on and so forth, if you know how this goes. So if you ever get a chance to go see that, it's really worth it. And you get to see a little bit of history in the making in terms of how everything goes. And I can't go wrong with any of those picks that they put in for each theme, because it really does fit in, and it's quite amazing. Now, if I were to do some creation of those new tiles for the next showing of Cover Up, maybe one of them being possibly characters of Pac-Man, or maybe the Super Mario Brothers in all those forms, like, you know, Small Mario, Super Mario, Fire Flower, Boomerang, you know, it's all those power-ups. I would imagine if they put that in, if it's know how this goes. But that's the way it goes. And let's go on to the next topic, which is, the big wheel in the Showcase Showdown. Now, the big wheel that they use in the Showcase Showdown, of course, it features all of those amounts on the wheel, anywhere from 5 cents, which is a nickel, and of course it's in increments of 5 cents each, all the way up to $1. And the 3 contestants that have made it up on stage can do so. Now, the Showcase Showdown debuted back in 1979, so generally it's a few years after the season of 1972 debut of the show came on, and that's when they extended the hourly time of the show from half an hour to an hour, which is what I've been used to all this time since I've tuned in since I was a young boy. And it's really exciting, especially hear the beeping sound whenever the wheel goes around. Quite amazing. Just have to make sure you listen to it. Now, of course, there were a couple of times where the audience had to be the beeper because of technical problems with the big wheel back at those couple of times during the Bob Barker era. And I gotta say, really talented. But yeah, generally how this goes is the contestants with the worst score goes first and spins the wheel. And what they gotta do is build up a score up to $1 without going over. And they get 2 spins if they need to. So let's say if they get on the first spin maybe 40 cents and they want to go again, they do so. And then whatever they add on the second spin gets added on. So for instance, if they get like 50 cents afterwards, then it would be a total of 90 cents. It's quite neat. Now, whoever gets the highest score goes on to the showcase round to play for cash-in prizes, which is quite amazing if you know how this goes. And then they introduce the bonus spin where you get bonus cash. Now, when on the debut of the show, of the big wheel that is, the way to go is if they get to $1 in one spin, or through the combination 2 spins, they get a cash bonus of $1,000, which is quite amazing. And then going around to that part about the bonus spin, which they initiated a few years after. And there's 3 sections of the big wheel to know about. There's either the green section, which is either the 5 or the 15, or nickel and 15 cents. And if the contestant lands on any of those 2 green sections, normally you get $5,000. Which came into effect until 2008, and then they've changed it up to $10,000, which is quite amazing. And now that the amounts are going on too soon. So here's how this goes. The green section right now for the bonus spin is $10,000 more. But if they get the dollar in the bonus spin, of course back then it used to be $10,000 and now it's $25,000. So if you remember the total of the bonus spin and how much money they can win on the big wheel, back then used to be up to as much as $11,000, and right now the highest prize of cash to give away on the big wheel is $26,000, which is quite neat. Now, there have been quite a lot of times where the score got tied, and usually at that point, if that were to happen, if it stays tied and no one beats them, then those 2 will have a spin-off, and they get 1 spin each to see who goes to the showcase, which is quite amazing. So I hope you can remember that. Now, jumping on ahead to the showcase round, I'm sure you know those 2 podiums, of course, where the 2 contestants each sitting on their own podium, and they're presented with the first showcase as usual. And then after they see the first showcase, the top winner makes the decision on whether they want to bid on that showcase or pass it on to their opponent and wait for the second showcase. And then once those showcases are presented and they got their bids in, then they start showing the actual retail prices of each of their showcases. And then there's one thing to keep in mind. You want to make sure that the price of your own showcase is within the actual price without going over in order to win it, and you gotta be the closest. And there's really something quite neat about the showcases. And what's even more exciting is something that usually happens quite a few times, and that's winning both showcases. Because I'm sure you know what's better than winning one showcase? Yes, you guessed it, both showcases. Now, back then, from the span of 74 to 98, in order to win both showcases, you would have to be within $100 of the actual price of the showcase to win both. And right now, starting in 1998 up to now, you have to be within $250 of the actual price of the showcase, which is quite amazing. And there were quite a few special weeks that I totally do like a lot, and I'll just name a couple of my favorites. One of them I would have to say is Big Money Week, because there's a whole lot of cash given away in each of the pricing games. Of course, they do one time where they do all the pricing games where that's mostly giving away cash, especially ones that are normally played for a car, such as Let 'em Roll and sometimes Checkout, which is quite amazing. Now, I'm sure you all know about the game Checkout. It's just basically predicting or estimating what you believe is the price of each product down there, and you want to make sure you get it as closest to that in order to win, and you got to have your total be within that certain range. Of course, right now, you got to be within $2, either above or below the actual total of the actual price to win the prize. And that's really how this goes. So I hope you will all check this out and see how all this goes in terms of what to see on the show. And let's move on to one big announcement. And there will be 2 new pricing games making the arrival on season 50 of the show, so make sure you tune in for that. And one of them being called, which is new here, is called Back to 72. And this is basically going to be like, I guess, Contestants Row 72 style. And they get to go see the prizes back on that decade, and they got to guess the actual price of that prize that was shown in those early years. So that's going to be quite amazing, especially for those that are already around back then when the show aired. It is quite amazing, so I hope you'll go check that out. Now, on to the audience. Now, as I mentioned before, back in season 49, they did the entire show without an audience due to the restrictions. I'm sure you all know about this. Of course, it is, I guess you could say it's a little bit on the quiet side, but at least they had the speakers and they turn on the sound effect for audience cheering, if you know how this goes, which is quite amazing. Well, probably not the best, but it's the best they can do. That's generally how it is. Now, new coming up to season 50 in terms of the audience, if they're going to have it in the same style as what they did for Let's Make a Deal, you know, with the tiny but mighty audience, which is quite neat. Of course, there's like a few traders, and the only exception that I don't think they're gonna put in is the at-homies on screen, just like they did on Let's Make a Deal. I'm not sure if they'll have that up, but I'm not gonna give too much of it away. All I can just say is just make sure you tune into the show beginning on September the 12th. So I hope you can tune in then at the normal daytime slot. Hopefully you'll all remember that. And make sure you tune in on September 30th from 9 to 11 p.m. for a special 2-hour primetime special celebrating 50 years of The Price is Right, which is quite amazing. And of course, as you all know, is also Drew Carey's 15th year as the host of The Price is Right. So I'm totally pumped for that. I hope you'll all tune in for that. is going to be quite amazing, and I can't tell how much more excited I am to see the return of the show, and of course, the return of the audience, even though it's not going to be that full, but at least we're going to get to see the real live audience back, and socially distanced, if you know how this goes. So I hope you will all tune in for that. Make sure you mark that date down for September 12th season premiere, and September 30th for the prime time special. And now on to the last part of this video, and it's a couple of channel shoutouts. And the first one I'm going to begin with is a wonderful young YouTuber who puts on the magic and does really good with the reactional vids and brings on so much joy to everyone, if you know how this goes. Especially doing reactions on several things such as gameplays and so much more. And the one that I'm talking about is called Katie's Corner. If you haven't checked out Katie's Corner, I highly encourage you to do so, and she's one of my longtime supporters on YouTube. Totally worth seeing, and if you want to see more of Katie's Corner, the link is up on the information card right up top, so you can go check that out when you have some time to see it all for yourself. So that's the one channel. And the last one, but certainly not least, and another one of my favorite and one of my longtime supporters on YouTube as well. And for those that are into gaming, especially if you're a big fan of the Nintendo Switch, it is quite amazing to see how all this turns out. And especially if you're a big Zelda fan, you're totally gonna like this. Especially now that we're in the 35th anniversary of the release of The Legend of Zelda that was released back on the NES, and it is quite amazing. And the one channel that I'm talking about is called Azalea22, and if you haven't checked that out, it is quite amazing to see, and something to really look forward to in terms of how this goes. And she does stream usually 4 days a week, which is quite amazing, including on the weekend, if you know how this goes. Now, for those that want to go check out Azalea22's YouTube channel, the link to it is also right up here in the information card, so you can go check that out and be amazed of how much gaming it can go into success, if you know how this goes. Very much success. It is quite amazing. I hope you can all check that out and see it all for yourself. And with that out of the way, I want to say thank you all so much for tuning in as we come into the end of the show. And I gotta say, I am totally pumped to go see Season 50 of The Price is Right this coming Monday, and I hope you will all tune in as well, because it is going to blow your mind dramatically, if you know how this goes. Now, just a reminder, if you haven't been checking out the show, make sure you go do so. And especially if it's your first time tuning into the show, it is well worth it. So once again, Season 50 premiere on September 12th, and the primetime special celebrating 50 years of the show coming up on September 30th from 9 to 11 p.m. And once again, if you have enjoyed this video and found this quite useful, make sure you check it out by hitting the like button below if you enjoyed it. Leave a legitimate comment below, and make sure to hit the red subscribe button if you're new here, and turn on all notifications so you don't miss out on any of the new vids that I post. And in case if you're wondering, I do post new cover song vids every Monday morning, usually around 8 o'clock in the morning, because it is quite amazing to start off the morning off with some wonderful music. And in case if you're wondering, the two karaoke apps that I sing on, of course I started off on Smule and then going on to Star Maker, so make sure you go check me out on both of those karaoke apps, Smule and Star Maker. It is quite amazing. And with that out of the way, I'm gonna go hop on out of here, so I will see you all in the next video. Take care, everyone, and peace out!